Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday's Thought for the Day. So been reflecting on the fact that October in the UK is officially designated as Black History Month. And I'm not sure how many of us or how many churches acknowledge this or maybe even aware of it. I know that many do, but I think the vast majority of people don't acknowledge it. Now, I know that Black History Month isn't particularly a faith-based initiative, but I do feel it's an opportunity missed, particularly in churches where the majority of worshippers are white British people. When I've raised such issues in the past, it has been said to me that in many ways Black History Month doesn't apply. Because there aren't any black people or people of colour in our church, or there aren't many. Now, I'm not talking about St Albans here, just a church from my past. It's been seen by many as just for black people and not relevant to a mainly white congregation. And I would argue that it's one of the main reasons we should acknowledge Black History Month. We should be open and alive to the issues that Black History Month raises. We should want to know more. Black history is part of our history, and to a great extent our history over the years has filtered out the history and the experiences of our black brothers and sisters. And white history is incomplete, I think, without that understanding. And when I use the words our and we in there, I am talking from the perspective of a white British middle class male, and my context affects my perceptions. And I do believe that this should be a starting point for us all, the understanding of ourselves. I can't talk from the experience of a black person or a person of colour, but I can listen and I can seek knowledge and I can be humble in the face of my ignorance. I can choose that. Now, I was brought up in an England that still had an empire, although that empire was becoming smaller as the years went on. And all my early education was tinged with views that were influenced by really Victorian views, influenced by empire, when Britain was seen as master of the waves or whatever. And in the books I read, black people were more often pictured as uncivilized. All the heroes were white. The films that I watched added to those images and stereotypes. White people were the masters, the clever ones, the heroes, the rulers. That was the context I grew up in. I even remember thinking as a child that I was glad I was white and English, and I felt sorry for people who lived elsewhere. I was tainted by the majority view, and I use that word tainted advisedly, really. I knew no different. This was the context in the 1950s and 60s, a context that the context that many black people and people of colour came to seek a better life. Can you imagine how hard it must have been to enter that context? It's my context too, but a context that I was comfortable in, comfortably ignorant in, I think. You know, my dad, when he came out of the RAF, worked as a conductor on the buses, and he had a driver called Ken who was a black and originated from Jamaica, and they worked together for many years, and they had a great friendship. And Ken occasionally came to our house with his twin daughters. And when he came in, he often would jokingly tell us that he'd seen the neighbours' curtains twitching whenever he came. Now, I don't think I understood that then, but I do now. It was rare to see a black face on the estate, and all those attitudes that I've mentioned were to the fore in that curtain twitching. Now, I never considered my mum and dad to be racist in any way at that time, but when Ken had had a cup of tea when he came round, my mum would always separate Ken's cup out for the washing up, saying that we needed to wash that a few extra times because Ken had drank out of it. Now that's shocking now. Well, I hope it's shocking. But it was casually acceptable then. And my colonial history still haunts. It's still evident within me. And perhaps none more so when I've spent time in South Africa and Botswana and Nigeria, that there is a discomfort within me that I feel where I think that colonial history plays out in the relationships I've established there. And that the concept, the awful concept, I think, of white saviour in that context is a big issue for me. And often I feel that it's a two-way process where relationships are still defined and played out in that way. Unconsciously, very unconsciously, but very much there. And I've always come away from those places having had such wonderful experiences, having been given more than I could ever give. And yet that feeling gnaws away at me. I suppose the only positive about that is that at least I recognise it and I'm trying to do something to address it. Or maybe my discomfort is telling me something about me and where I'm coming from. It's a thing to work on, a thing to consider. So with all those things, and I know I've spoken very personally about my own experience, about recognising my own experience, recognising where I've come from. I believe that Black History Month is important for us all. And I believe as Christians we have to recognise its need and be proactive in promoting it. It's an opportunity to celebrate together, but also to recognise that we have a long way to go. And ultimately it's a chance to celebrate the creative brilliance of the God who made, as it says in Acts, made from one man every nation of mankind. And the incredible redemptive beauty of Jesus, who with his own blood ransomed people for God from every tribe and language and people and nation. And we should remember that. Well, I'll speak to you on Thursday, and in the meantime, you have a good week, and God bless. Bye-bye.